Hello and welcome to today's webinar titled Simplicity by Design. I'm Scott Tingey from Carroll Fabrics, and it'll be my pleasure today to walk you through this program. Appreciate the time that you've taken to view this webinar, and hopefully everything that we talk about will be meaningful to you and you'll be able to put it to use. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Simplicity by Design. Everything that you're going to see today, the way this book was put together, et cetera, had a lot of input from you out in the field. We wanted to put a program together that was kind of addresses certain needs, and we really did solicit that information from a lot of our accounts and stuff in the field. So a lot of what you'll see today is basically input that we've received from you guys. So to tell you a little bit about this program, when you look at it, we make the statement, simplicity by design. It's easy to order, custom-made window treatments, and easy as 1, 2, 3. I want to make sure that you understand that statement. We understand that being in this business is not as easy as 1, 2, 3. We all understand that. But what we wanted to make you aware of is that when you actually access this particular sample vehicle in the process of your design work, when you're ready to pick out a fabric, when you're ready to pick out a product, and when you're ready to place the order, it really is easy as 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of what we're trying to say there. So we think it's a really cool program here. Again, with a lot of input from you, we put this program together. So let's start off today by talking about some of the highlights that are in this program. There's 300 plus in-trend fabrics, if you will, with a 97% order fill rate. What that equates to is 97% of the time when you place an order for this program, the fabric's going to be in stock. You can get drapery widths up to 126 inches and lengths up to 150 inches. You can still get the decorative side panels that are either 1 width wide or 2 widths wide. That was found in the previous program, which would be Simplicity Design 1. So this is Simplicity Design 2nd generation. You can get 5 great valance styles, and the cool thing about this, the hardware is included. We'll talk more about that upcoming. 3 low profile cornice boards, which are really cool. Can't wait to kind of show you what those are. A wonderful decorative hardware attachment comes with the book, so you can get your made-up product and the hardware all kind of ships as one. There's a wonderful consumer lookbook, which will allow the consumer to look at different products and stuff and make decisions based on that. And then also a very easy to understand product retail and specification book that you'll be able to look up your pricing, look up product specs and things like that. On your screen, you should be able to see what the actual book looks like. You can see that there's 3 fabric stacks in there, and they're all color coordinated. Each one of those little fabric stacks have a number, so you can keep them in rotation. You can take them out, just by spreading the rings apart, taking the fabric sample out and holding it up to the window. A lot of neat conveniences that you can do with that. You see the little tabs on the book toward the bottom. Underneath each tab, for example, the one on the left I think is 118-inch shears, and the one on the right is the lining component that goes with this program. But here again, so if we think in terms of step 1, selecting your fabric, you can see how that's an easy vehicle to do that with. When we talk about those 300 fabrics that are in trend, you can see I've just listed some of the, design trends, if you will, that this book can address. So you got some really cool fabrics in there from, geometric, some globally inspired prints, and some silks, embroidery, and a lot more. The other statement is we want to make you understand that all these fabrics have been filtered for product performance. And really what we mean by that is we tried not to put any fabrics in there that might have a checkered past, if you will, or if we know it's a content that just, it's not going to work well with the products that we're introducing in this program. So we've really tried to put fabrics in there that will, work good with what you order. Here again, just reminding you that 97% of the time we've got a great order fill rate. And the other big call out is the fact that all this product ships in 10 working days or less. It doesn't matter if you order 1 drape or 20 drapes, they're all going to ship within 10 days or less. So now, if you think of step 2, as far as selecting the product, we just talked about how easy it is to pick the fabric and those types of things. But step 2 is to kind of select your product. So what I want to introduce you to is the lookbook that you can give to the consumer to look at. We realize when you look at it, you'll go through it once or twice and pretty much memorize what's in there. But remember, it's always new for the consumer. So when they're looking through it and they open it up, the first thing they're going to see is a nice little dining room nook area with a Roman shade and a little box pleated valance that we call the Spencer. All products that are offered in this program. But we also make a statement on the right-hand side that we're telling you, it's a lookbook guide, and what you can get in this book are draperies and panels, Roman shades, valances, and cornices. And oh, by the way, if it's important to you, they're all made in the United States of America in our plant in Augusta, Georgia. So when they open it up, first thing that we'll talk about are draperies and panels. So we give them a nice picture of a chevron pattern, if you will, made up in our little natural pleat, and just kind of a little dining room or living room, more of a living room scene, just to kind of get them thinking in terms of draperies. And so when they turn the page, they'll open it up and they'll see another little room scene on the left, but on the right-hand side, they can look at the different style of drapery headings that we offer. And we'll talk about more of these in depth, but you can see that there's 8 of them. Most of them you've heard of, maybe some of them you haven't, but keep in mind customers probably know rod pockets and 3-finger pinch pleated draperies and probably grommet because you see a lot of those. But other than that, they're not really aware of the different pleat headings that you can do. Then we also show them the options and upgrades such as blackout lining, inner lining, the ability to do 6-inch tall hems and headers and that type of thing. So when they turn the page, they're then introduced to our Roman shades or soft shades with a nice little room scene using the flat Roman shade, little animal skin print, and just kind of, don't we all wish we had a nice little office like that? It would be so cool. But we do introduce them to that just to kind of give them the flavor for it, if you will. So when they open to the next page, then what they're going to see is this is our little, I always call it a happy shade or a smiley shade, but this is our soft Roman shade that we're showing them on the left-hand side. And then we show them the different shade styles that are offered in this program on the right-hand side. Here again, we'll talk more specifics about each one of them, but it does let the consumer see the different shades that are offered and some of the options and upgrades. For example, they can do a top-down, bottom-up, or have attached valances, those types of things. So then what I did is a little bit of animation, if you will, showing, kind of introducing the rod-mounted valance category. So when you pull these two up, you get a look where we've taken these valances, these rod-mounted valances, which really are pretty cool, and kind of showing them with room scenes with a Roman shade underneath them. Just a little call out, and I'll probably say this 2 or 3 more times, but the trick to installing these valances is to make sure that if you order the face width 48, that the installer or whoever installs it stretches that rod all the way up to 48, and that way it doesn't take the look of a gathered on valance. And when they're up there in the window, they look good. And not that we're trying to say, hey, they look just like a board mounted one, but many times you can't tell the difference. So here again in the book, you recognize that picture from the beginning, but over on the right-hand side, that shows the 5 different styles of these rod-mounted valances by which the hardware is included, as I mentioned earlier. And you can see the different styles. Most of them are a play on like a box-pleated valance, but the Danby and the Briscoe kind of a little bit different. So it really gives them a nice variety of product to choose from. And here again, the standard return we'll talk about later is 4 inches, but they can also get a close-fitting 3-inch return or a 5 or 6-inch return if they're going to do like a layered scenario. Then as you turn the page in the book, what you're going to see, you'll go into the cornice board section, and these aren't the typical traditional cornice boards that you might be thinking of. We've actually labeled them low-profile cornice boards. That's because the maximum length on these particular cornice boards are 10 inches. They've got some other characteristics, just to give you a few. There's no padding. This particular picture you're looking at with that little circle pattern, that can be a very modern or contemporary look. 10 inches straight. You can get it with or without a welt cording on the bottom. So they just work wonderful with Roman shades. You can put other things under them, but Roman shades definitely fill the mark when you're using these particular cornices. So here's another little room scene that we put together that just shows you the different cornices used with different fabrics. So the one on the left's got a little ethnic feel to it. Looks like a toile underneath that cornice. And then you've got more of a transitional scene with that paisley. And then almost a more, tribal feel to it with that big flame stitch on the cornice on the right-hand side and the Roman shade that's underneath it. So you can just kind of pointing out how great they work with Roman shades. A lot of times we worry about the shade not being long enough to hide the hardware and do all that that's underneath it. Well, in this case, the shades kind of do that part. That's why you can use a little 10-inch drop and still look really good. I told you earlier that there's a hardware component that comes with this particular program. It's called Hyde Park 2. It's a really cool program. It's a 1-inch metal. It comes in 4 different finishes with 6 different finial styles. It's in stock at Carroll and ready to go, so it would ship with your order all under 10 working days, and it's complete and ready to go. Doesn't mean you have to use this hardware with the program, but it's there for convenience sake, but it's very fashionable and it works really well, and you can read up on the particulars. But boy, we sell a ton of it, and the price points are just out of this world. So good stuff. So in addition to the lookbook and the hardware book, there's 2 other little catalogs that come with it. One, if you've used Carroll, in the past, you know that we have what we call like an alphabetical fabric listing. So that's the book on the left. You can open that up, and that's kind of got all your general information in it. You can look up fabrics by name individually. So if you just wanted to order yardage and you wanted a per yard price, you can get that kind of information out of there. And then the book on the right, which we're going to go into next, is really the product specification and price guide. So we'll talk about individual product, their specifications, and show you how to price it as we go forward. So as you open up the book, here again we're making that statement. We do draperies, Roman shades, valances, and cornices. And if we start off on the right-hand side, draperies, and you can see there's like a table of content, if you will, where they can go down by page number and look up information on any of the draperies that are offered in this program. So we start off with the grommet. Won't take a lot of time. You've all seen grommet draperies, but what we try to do is give you good anecdotal information by bullet point to the right-hand side. For example, some of the things, you can get lengths up to 150 inches. We sew them with color-coordinated thread. We tell you that 1-inch rod seems to work the best with this. The grommet size is 1 9/16. You can use 1 3/8 inch, but it's pretty snug, but works great if you're just doing stationary panels. But in department stores, when you buy a grommet drapery, you're basically purchasing one that's 54 inches wide. So if you need to cover a bigger space than that, you're buying 2 or 3 to put on one rod. Of course, here you can get them all the way up to 200 and something inches wide. So that's the grommet drapery. Next, we have the inverted pleat drapery, and the inverted pleat drapery has different names throughout the industry, so it makes sense to kind of understand what this one's about. And really what it is, it's a 3-finger pinch pleated drapery, but what we do is we just tack it at the top of the pleat. If we were to tack it at the bottom of the pleat, it would be just a 3-finger drapery, but in this case we tack it at the top. You'll see in a lot of shelter magazines and stuff, it's a pretty popular pleat. Just kind of a little play on the traditional 3-finger, give it like a little bit different look. But it has buckram, it's 2.5 to 1 fullness. You get lengths up to 150, and your lining selection. And under options, you can do blackout lining, inner lining, 6-inch heading and hem. So you can pretty much do anything custom with this. Then the next one that we are showing you is what we call the natural pleat. This deserves a couple little call outs. One, that we actually make this heading style with no buckram, and it still has the 3-finger pinch pleat, but what we do with that is we tack it at the very top, just like the inverted pleat. So don't be fooled that this is like a rounded top. It's actually straight across. It's just that these are kind of in a semi-open position. 2.5 to 1 fullness, standard 3.5-inch leading edge, and 3.5-inch return unless you tell us to make it a different size. And all the other custom features, the double turn headings and hems, we'll pre-pin them. You can blackout line, inner line, anything you need to do. So the other call out is make sure that you can't really install these on a white traverse rod because the heading's only 2 inches tall. And when you pre-pin them, you have to put the pin near the top, which would fit a decorator rod with rings. Because on a white traverse rod, you have to set the pin down so low that you can't, because there's only 2 inches of heading here, and if you did try to put it on a white rod, they would just bend over. They just don't look good at all. So you really want to install these on either a ringless decorator rod or a decorator rod with rings, but in both cases the pleat hangs beneath the rod. The next one is the plain top drapery, and just some explanation here. If you look at the picture, you can somewhat, I don't want to say get fooled, but it looks like there's individual pleats or individual folds. All this is a width of fabric, or 2 widths of fabric, or 3 widths of fabric that you would order, and it's just flat. And what we do is we just double turn the heading, we put pins in it, It actually does not have buckram, but we double turn the heading, put pins in it every 6 to 10 inches. Then you would take it and just hang it on the rings, on your decorator rod, and then you would you would form it or dress it down to look a certain way. So a lot of times we see these types of panels used as stationary side panels, where you sort of dress it and just leave it that way and don't touch it. But if you want to use it, and if it's a very casual situation, customer wants you could hook a wand or a baton on it, and you can pull it open or close. You just have to know that it doesn't maintain the pleat shapes. You have to dress it down each time because, as I stated earlier, it's just a flat piece of fabric. Okay? Then we have the relaxed pleat drapery, and here again, this is kind of just as it's called, a relaxed pleat. It's just kind of a play on a box pleat. We actually tack inside the pleat to help maintain this flat shape, and there's a little bit of space in between the pleats. But here again, this is not going to hang like your traditional pinch pleated or inverted pleat draperies with a nice edge coming down each pleat, because they're folded to the square. So here again, we see a lot of these used as stationary side panels, or if it's a very overall casual look, and the customer's not, some customers don't want that old tradition. I don't keep saying old, want that traditional, pinch pleated look where the folds go all the way to the floor and they're nice and even. Some people are more interested in the heading style and the fabric that they're choosing to create a more casual kind of look. I think you know what I'm talking about. So there's a couple types of customers. So you want to keep this really formal and stationary, then I would suggest selling it as a stationary panel, and you hand dress it and get it just where you want, that type of thing. But other than that, it's just a very casual traversing drapery. Then, of course, there's the rod pocket. People say, boy, what's so ingenious about the rod pocket? But you think about the rod pocket, it's been around a long time, and it does serve a lot of purposes. For example, on a rod pocket, if you're doing side panels and it's going underneath a top treatment or what have you, you really don't need a pinch pleated drapery or some fancy heading up there, because you don't see it anyway. And for example, if you're doing a stripe in the drapery, and you want that stripe to kind of come forward at each pleat, to some degree, not a perfect science, but with a rod pocket, you can kind of shift it and move it around and pull different colors to the front, like if it was a stripe or whatever. You see rod pockets used for shears, top down, bottom up, the hourglasses, lots of things. So rod pocket's still out there. And here again, it's all custom made. Then you have the single pleat drapery, and the single pleat, some of you might remember that if you sold like in motorhomes, or if you were selling a yacht, something like that. People wanted something that would just stack exceptionally well, didn't have a lot of fullness, or pleats wouldn't hang out into the room a lot. Well, that's the single pleat drapery, but it has really somewhat become in vogue for some more, not so much casual, but you can almost take a modern approach with it. Seen people use like linen blends with a little metallic in it, so it's got that little, modern or feel to it. And it holds that pleat real well. And when I say pleat, all this is a 1-inch little pleat that projects out in one single 1-inch projection. And so it doesn't have a lot of depth of fold as you follow the pleats all the way down in the bottom. But that's just the uniqueness of this particular product. And we sell quite a few of them. See them a lot of side panels with Roman shades behind them, things like that. So pretty cool little product. And then finally, you have to have the 3-finger pleat, because a lot of people still buy them. They've been around for a long time, but there's a reason. People like them, they look good, and so we do have the 3-finger pleat. You can read on the left-hand side how Carol manufactures that and some of the custom features that we add to that. Probably very much the same as many other workrooms do, but you're going to get the consistency and the quality when you order from Carol Fabrics. But you can see we use cotton thread, Gutermann cotton thread. We have nice grades of lining, and you can do some of the upgrades, blackout lining or inner line it, and 6-inch hems and headers. So it's a great product, and it really kind of makes up what goes on in Simplicity by Design. So let's talk about pricing in this book. Pricing, it's not difficult at all. And keep in mind, you have 2 ways to do this. You can jump, if you've got your iPad or your laptop and you're in the consumer's house, you can bypass this book altogether. Or if not, you can use the book. So we've made it very easy to get pricing and information. But let's just look through the book here real quick. So if you open up for drapery pricing, you can see what you do is you would determine what group the fabrics in, and that's from that alphabetical price list. You'd look it up. Say you found a fabric that was in group 2. Say hypothetically you had a drapery that was 90 inches wide by, I don't know, 108 long. I would go over until 84. I'd round up to the 105 or 5 widths of material. I'd come down till it intersects with the 108. That's $950, fabric, lining, and labor, all built in for you. That's how easy it is to price. There was no calculation of yardage or anything, pattern repeats, nothing like that. We did all that for you. In addition, I told you that we carried over into this program the opportunity just to order side panels only. So if we were still in that price group 2 and you just wanted a one-width fabric, a one-width side panel, what we're telling you is that we will pleat it tip to tip, including returns and everything added in, 20 inches wide. And these are eaches now, so if I just wanted one and I wanted that 108 inches, it'd be $182. Or if I wanted a wider panel, say it's going on a wider window and I needed 2 widths of fabric to be tip to tip 40 inches wide, I would be $359 based on 108 finished length. Remember, if you're doing a pair, you'd have to order 2 of these because it's just panel pricing. So very easy to use. No pattern matching, no calculation of yardage or anything. There's the wide width shear component that's in this program. We made it very easy. We have shears that are in 4 groups, so there's no figuring of length because we're railroading it. So it's just a matter of determining the width that you want to use. Say you wanted one that was 84 inches by 60 inches long or 80 inches long. Length wouldn't matter. You just specify, but you would just find the fabric group that you're using, match it up with the width. Let's just say hypothetically it was a price group 2 and it was 84 inches, then boom, you've got $477. That's how easy it is. You can do memory stitching. With memory stitching, everybody knows what that is. Used on shears on the back side, we do a little stitch that goes from pleat to pleat to pleat on the back side of the hem, and that helps the pleat formation and folds hold their shape for a very nice looking shear. So now let's talk about some of the options for drapery. Not here to school you on blackout lining, but that isn't an upgrade. And there's things you need to know about blackout lining, and I'll leave it to you to read some of this. But blackout has its usage, certainly for if you need to do room darkening for sleeping and all that kind of stuff. But there's some things to remember. Blackout lining is a little bit stiffer and somewhat can kind of dictate the way a panel might hang. But also sometimes you can see little black marks if you're sewing it against a white fabric, because that's the blackout property that comes. Although we do everything we can to eliminate that, just some of the things you think about. There's an inner lining option. If you're using a lightweight faux silk and you want to bulk it up a little bit, inner lining was only to protect silks in the old days, but we see a lot of people using inner lining to go with, for lack of a better term, faux silk, some of the polyesters to beef it up just a little bit. So all pretty cool stuff that you can, with a little bit of an upcharge, you can add to your drapery order. I told you about the tie back option. So if you wanted to do a fabric tie back, we give you a little methodology on how we figure the length of the tie back. You can do whatever you want. That's just a little hint. Then we talked about the 6-inch pleat and hem options that you can do for the drapery also. Now, if you wanted to price any of these options, it's pretty simple. You've got your basic drapery price, and then all you would do is go to the blackout lining. If I wanted to do an upgrade, I think we had a 5 width at 105 by 108. So if I just did that chart, just looking at it, you would see that you would add an additional $74 at retail, bolt that onto your price, and that would pay for the blackout lining. You can see if you're doing panels, you would just find a 1 width or 2 width, find the length that you're doing, boom, that's your add-on. Grommet draperies or panels, it's very, very simple to use, even on the tie backs. Hypothetically, if you're doing a group 1 fabric and you need it to be 36 inches wide, it's $27 for a pair of tie backs. So that easy. Just to kind of continue on with some of the options, works the same way. The inner lining, it's just a matter of bolting that on to your main drapery price, very easy to use. Or if you're doing panels only, it's very easy to use. And then you've got the 6-inch pleats and hem. So that's all about finding how wide it is and then just adding on the extra money for the, a little bit more fabric that you're going to use to create the 6-inch pleat and the 6-inch hem. All right, well, let's quickly talk about Roman shades. Now, Roman shades, first thing right out the chute, want to let you know that all of our Roman shades meet child safety requirements, so you can put that to bed and know that we got you covered on that one. But here again, we show the consumer, or you actually in this case, because if you're using this for pricing and stuff, we give you a little content of what information's on what page, but just very, very simple to use. So we talking about the flat Roman shade. Great shade. You all know who this is. I won't spend a lot of time, but you'll see at Carroll Fabrics we give you a maximum width of 96 and a maximum length of 96. Kind of some of the things that we do. The color coordinated cotton thread and cord locks. All typical stuff. And then we'll do blackout lining, a straight balance, or top down, bottom up. And you all know the pricing charts. Just a matter of width and length. Let them intersect, and that's the price you'd use based on the price group that you're using. But what we've done, instead of adding a component to say, I want to use a cordless headrail, we've actually made it its own page. So then you would actually see a separate product called cordless flat Roman shade. So the difference is the call out, the flat Roman shade, the cordless headrail for the flat Roman shade. It's a metal headrail. And it has a few limitations, meaning the maximum width is 72 and the maximum length is 72, whereas the standard headrail was 96 by 96. So a few differences. The cool thing about this, there's no pull cords. There are cords on the back, but there's no pull cords. So you raise and lower it just by pushing up gently on the bottom or pulling it down. There's a nice little plastic pull that goes on the shade in the middle, and you can operate it. And here again, when you go to the pricing, you don't have to do any add-ons. That's the price including the cordless headrail. The next is the front fold Roman shade, and that's best described as the shade that has dowels in it. And when we say front fold, all we're saying is the pockets are to the front that we slip the dowels through. These are maybe a little more tailored looking, but they're nice shades. They have a lot of the same standard characteristics as the flat Roman shade. They both stack exceptionally well, but you've got here your width and length limitations, kind of all laid out the same way and priced the same way. So then we have the cordless front fold Roman shade. So the same shade, except we attach the cordless headrail to it. You again notice that your limitations go from 96 inches wide down to 72 when you access the cordless headrail. And then down at the bottom, we merchandise the headrail into the shade itself, so you don't have to add on extra for that particular headrail. So we just sort of sell it as its own entity. Then you've got the reverse fold Roman shade. Yep, I bet you guessed it. The pockets go to the back and the dowels are inserted, so the pockets are in the back. Just maybe one little call out on this is if you're using prints or something that's got a very distinct design. Remember, some of that design will get lost in those folds that go to the back. It's probably about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch that goes to the back, so you can lose that. Works great for stripes, solids, and overall busy prints. It works fine. But you guys are the professionals out there. I'm sure you know that. Here again, if I'm going to price it, it's just width versus length. Very easy to do. And then you just basically have the cordless version of the reverse fold. And here again, won't labor the point, but it's just, you've got a few differences than the normal headrail. But other than that, it's all the same thing with the pricing. So then we have the soft Roman shade, and this is a cool shade. That's actually one that was in the idea book that we were looking at earlier. So here again, this is a great shade. A couple of call outs on this is this particular shade doesn't have a lot of cording in the back. It just has a cord on the left and a cord on the right, and that's for sizes all the way up to, I think, about 50 inches wide. But the point is, this one needs a little more dressing than the others. It's got that little smiley look, but when you pull it up, you really just have the two cords in the back, so sometimes you have a little more hand dressing. We also recommend that whatever you do, when you do an outside mount, and if you've been trained to make it 1.5 inches wider on each side, we just say for this particular shade, maybe add an additional inch to whatever you've been trained to do. And that accounts for a little hourglassing or toe in that this particular shade can sometimes have. Very popular shade. See, a lot of people buy these, pull them to a certain position, just tie them off and leave them, and that's where they stay. But a great shade. This particular shade is not available with the cordless headrail, so this is it. It's the standalone version. So now let's just take 2 seconds and talk about the upgrades for Roman shades. And the first one that comes to mind is the blackout lining upgrade. So I've got a little call out here for you. If you've ever sold a flat Roman shade with blackout lining, you know sometimes when you're sewing the rings on that it leaves a little pinhole, and especially with blackout lining, everything's black and then boom, you get a little light coming out wherever the rings are sewn on. So we've done a couple of things at Carroll Fabrics to either eliminate or greatly reduce that. And what we're doing is we're interlining that shade. So you'd have your face fabric, your inner lining, and your blackout. But we only offer that on 3 of the 4 shades that are offered in this program, and that's your flat Roman shade, or 2 shades, the flat Roman shade and the soft Roman shade. So those are the 2 that we actually do the interlining, and what we've done is eliminate those pinholes. So if I was selling one and I'm doing blackout lining, I'm going to sell a flat or a soft Roman because I know that with the interlining added to it, it's going to either eliminate or greatly reduce those pinholes. So, and there's no upcharge for doing that, which is pretty cool. We can do a straight valance. It's just a valance. It's 8 inches in length, and you can get them up to 96 inches in width also. Told you earlier about the ability to do a top-down, bottom-up upgrade. There are some child safety things that kind of get involved here because, there's a lot of cords and stuff involved with this shade. But the big call-out, as you can see in bold print down at the bottom, is that the maximum size that we'll do a top-down, bottom-up are 48 inches by 72 inches. And we only do that in 3 of the 4 shades, and that's the flat Roman or the front or the reverse fold Roman. So, but it does come with a hardened 4-inch valance at the top, so that headrail pulls up underneath there. So it's a nice product. It's a very nice product. Those of you that have sold or work with top down, bottom up in various situations, how advantageous they can be for certain design concerns. So here again, if we just want to talk about pricing these options for the shades, you get your basic price off the individual product chart, and then you just come over and look up the same size for blackout lining for a shade. Let's say it was 48 by 36, you'd charge an extra $8 at retail to do that. If I was going to do a valance, I'd just go down the left-hand side, and maybe I'm doing a valance out of a different fabric. I'd find the group that valance is made out of, slide across till I find my width, and boom, that's my retail add-on. So very, very simple to do. If I was going to do a top-down, bottom-up, as you can see, not hard to do. Just find the fabric group number that your shade's made out of, and then find the size. And when we show 24, 36, or 48, that doesn't mean we only make the shade 24, 36, or 48. So for instance, if I had a shade that was 29 inches, I just price it from the 36-inch column. So now we have the valances, and here again, just to talk a little bit about these valances. These are rod-mounted valances. We're not trying to disguise them as being anything other than that, but remarkably, there's some really cool things that you can do with them. But here again, I'm going to give you that call out again. Is make sure that when the installer puts these up, because the hardware is included, that he stretches that rod nice and tight so there's no shearing effect when you put the valance on. So the first one I want to talk about is the Briscoe valance. It's a cool little valance. It's made in actually 3 pieces. Because you've got a little swag tail coming down on each end, those 2 end pieces, however, are self-lined. So whatever is in the face fabric, you'll also have as your self-lining for those 2 end pieces. Then the back piece is lined. But what we did is we ran a piece of blackout lining that goes tip to tip behind all of that. So when the light comes through, that blackout lining blocks everything. So you don't see, when you've got self-lining in the cascades, regular lining in the middle piece, it all blends and goes well together. So here again, you can get that with 4-inch return standard, but a 3, 5, or a 6-inch return. You can do some layering. Hardware comes with it. It's got little extension brackets so you can fit whatever return you need. And there's some of the anecdotal information, long points, short points, and all that stuff that you can do. Pricing it, all of our top treatments in this program are priced by the face width, meaning you just find the face width and come down until you find the group, and then you price it. That's the retail price. So that's the Briscoe valance. The next one is the Danby valance. I've seen a lot of this. I've seen some really cool situations where this valance was used, but it's very simple. It is a rod pocket. Hardware comes with it, but it's a nice little swag valance, and you can get little contrasting tabs if you want, as you can see, and you pull those tabs up, and that's what creates a swag effect. And you can actually get this up to 108 inches wide, and in that case you'd have 2 swags, but it's anything under 51 is going to have 1 swag. Anything over 51 point something will have 2 swags. So, but here again, raw hardware comes with it. It's a really cool little valance. Then you have the lift and valance, and the lift and valance is really easy to do. It's kind of a play on a box pleat, and you'll see, boy, some of these look alike, but what you'll notice is on the bottom scallops, the shapes that they take, and that's kind of what differentiates them from each other. But for example, we just show you on the left-hand side some of the information, 24 to 48 inches wide, hardware comes with it. Talk about the return, we do show you the scallop or the spacing of the scallops, in this case 12 to 14 inches, but very easy to use, very, very simple to not get in trouble with, in this program you don't do any yardage calculation. As far as that goes, there's never yardage calculation when you use Carroll Fabrics Workroom, but then you got your retail price, easy to use. Then we've got the Spencer valance, and first thing that comes to mind, it's a box pleated valance, and a little bit of a call out. These spaces are actually 27 inches wide, and that's not because we're trying to get more width using less fabric. We actually went out, and you guys asked for a lot of this. You wanted a wider, not so busy box pleated valance. I went out on the net and looked around at stuff, and I saw some of these. I even saw monogramming, all kinds of weird stuff on there that you can do, but we don't offer the monogramming, but I'm just saying, so wider box pleat. Here again, hardware is included. I don't think I need to tell you how to price it. Just to call it, remember, it's always priced by the face width, and then you just specify the return. So that's the Spencer valance. Then there's the Somerton valance. Here again, it's just a play on a box pleat, but you'll just see the scalloping at the bottom is a little bit different than the one that I showed you earlier. But it has a lot of the same features, information. They all work the same. And one call out too, by the way, is if you're doing a print or what have you, we will balance the print in each one of the box pleats. So I think that's custom. That's what it's all about. So now let's move on and talk about these low profile cornices. I kind of showed you and talked to you a little bit about these already, but we'll kind of go into a little more depth. So for example, there's 3 styles. The first one's called the Aubrey cornice, and you can get these in a length of up to 10 inches. And this one actually has a little style to it. So you've got a 7-inch short point and a 10-inch long point. There's no padding whatsoever. The dust caps are covered in the same fabric as the face fabric. The inside of the down legs are covered in the same fabric. The inside's lined. It's got gimp cord for edging. You can get it with or without a welt cord on the bottom. So it's a very slimline, sleek, kind of look. Obviously, the fabric that you choose will kind of make it lend itself, whether it's more traditional feel or contemporary. But just to give you an idea, there's no padding and very easy to order. Here again, face width. Find your group number, and boom. Probably half the price as a regular cornice. They're lighter. There's lots of reasons. They work wonderful with Roman shades. Then you've got the Emma cornice. Here again, it's got, a little, I don't know, not as contemporary of a feel to it just by the way it's designed. But we give you the, 10-inch long point, 6-inch short point, all the same information. One call out down there where it says print fabrics are seamed and matched. Solids and non-directional fabrics will be railroaded. So, just to kind of give you an idea of what our thinking is on that, so you don't have to think too much outside the box for that. But very simple to use. And then the last one is a Kinsley cornice, and this is just a, just a flat, straight edge, straight line cornice box. Here again, no padding. Face fabric covers the face and the top of the board for that 2-story, loft looking down. That's all covered automatically. It's included in the price. 10-inch finished length. You can get it shorter, but 10 is the max with some of the same information. So these work awesome with Roman shade. So whenever I was selling Roman shade, I would always be thinking that, those 3 low profile cornices, how would that look? So anyway. That's a little sales pitch on that one. So that's the Kinsley cornice board. So that's kind of a walkthrough of all the products that are involved with Carroll Fabrics in this particular program, Simplicity by Design. And step 3, it's so easy to get online and order these. It's very simple to, you go online and you'll see an icon on there that's going to say Simplicity by Design. On the home page when you first log on, you'll click on that, and then it'll take you to this little family of products, and it shows you once again what you can get in Simplicity by Design. You can get drapes or panels, you can get fabric by the yard, you can get hardware, you can get valances, you can get soft shades, and you can get those cornices. And really, in the course of about 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes, you can enter your order. That's your spec sheet. You got instant pricing. Boom, it's on the way, and we're shipping. Just within 10 working days, which is really one great opportunity for you. So I want to thank you for taking some time to let me walk you through the Simplicity by Design. If you really like the program, hopefully you already have it, and this just kind of helped you get going on it, and maybe covered some things you didn't know about, although it is pretty simple. Simplicity by Design, that was the intent. This is what you asked for. But if you need one, I know that we're pretty much out of inventory on these books now, but that doesn't mean the sales reps don't have a way of getting one. If you're very interested and you don't have one, you can contact different people throughout Carroll Fabrics, as I'm showing on this particular slide, or you can, just if you know your territory sales manager, contact him direct, and they'll work that out for you, and you'll be off and running. And once you're involved in this program, we'll be coming out with a 3rd generation book not too much further down the road, and then you sort of just build your inventory, and off you go, and off you're running. So having said that, I want to thank you for taking some time to view this webinar. We really do appreciate your business. We know your time is valuable, and we really appreciate you taking some time to view the webinar. We do have some additional webinars coming up, and I realize this is a taped version of the webinar, so you might see some dates that are maybe past or not, may have passed. But point is, if you go to Carroll Fabrics and you log onto our homepage, we always have an icon that you can click for webinars, and it'll give you webinars. I think we've got them posted all the way through the end of 2014 now, and you just click on one and register. So that's our commitment to you, is to keep these webinars coming and subjects that are meaningful, and just help be a good partner as we grow the business together. So thanks for taking some time. I hope whatever information you chose to take away with today was meaningful for you, and thank you very much. Happy selling, and once again, thank you. Bye-bye.